Welcome back, everybody, to Thanks for Your Concern. You are here with Berenice.
And I'm Ella.
We are excited to have you. The eclipse just happened. How's everybody doing? Did anybody gain their superpowers, and if so, what were they? Ella, thoughts?
The eclipse was eclipsing yesterday, babes.
Mm-hmm.
I had a doozy of a day. Some of it I can't go into legally, technically. I'm just joking. I wish it was that serious, but no. I literally was like, I'll share some personal stuff. So my boyfriend moved. We're doing long distance right now. And I thought that was the eclipse that was going to eclipse. I thought that was going to be the change.
Big move.
Yeah, what's the new normal? What does my life look like? And then a series of events happened. One thing right after the other. And now I'm like, wow, I wish it was just that. I wish it was just that's eclipsing. But it's supposed to be like a big shift of energy, and I felt that. And honestly, I'm trying to come from a non-anxious place. I feel like I can it's almost like anxiously attached to situations, I've been really working on my anxiety, and it's been really good when I'm in a calm place, but I'm still working on like, oh shit, girl, this anxiety is anxietying when shit hits the fan. And I'm okay. I'm like good, surprisingly. So I'm happy that I'm dealing with the situation better than like I would in the past. But it's like crazy how you're like, man, you're fully never healed.
Yeah, I agree with you. The eclipse has also been eclipsing over here. It has manifested. You can say what you want, okay? Maybe it's all in my head. I placebo affected myself, but like my anxiety and my emotions were just like not okay. This past couple of days, it was just really intense, and it brought a lot of, they call it like healing energy, which I do recognize. Like when you have really bad anxiety, you either like sink or swim. You know what I mean? Like you have to learn how to cope. Yeah. So I kind of had a revelation today with some situations that I've been going through that just like really triggered like some of my abandonment issues and other things where they, the anxiety was exciting, that it all really comes back to, at least like with abandonment issues and in relationships, most of the time something's fester from you, like, or specifically me, kind of like letting go of my boundaries for other people in order to like keep people, because I think they're gonna leave me, right? It's a deep moment. So I realized, oh my God, how do you stop being anxious by not abandoning myself? And that really just means like reestablish my own boundaries. Like, what is that? What do I need for me, right? Turns out if you just pour back the love into yourself, you're gonna come out on the other end of the line. So so it's been a good day. Like this was sunny. The vibes were feeling like hot girl summer. So I'm excited about that. And I'm having a good moment. I'm feeling like everybody as a unit is like hop ship or commit. Like I'm seeing a lot of breakups, but I'm also seeing a lot of people like really in love. You know what I mean? So it's like you're either one or the other. And I think that's with all aspects of life. Like maybe some people are feeling like quitting their jobs. Is it me? I don't know. So, I feel like that's kind of the vibe at the moment. And it's kind of, everything plays a part in its own. So you never know how other people's actions are going to affect you. And right now, I feel like it's kind of like the Russian roulette. Let's just like see what happens. I'm really in the vibe of just like having fun with it. And then just like everything's going to be okay. You know what I mean?
Everything is going to be okay. And like, I feel like this kind of like takes us into the theme of the episode, which is about courage. And I'm like trying to have the courage to believe that everything's going to be all right and just go with it. And so we're talking about courage and like how courage shows up in our life in like a modern day girly pop.
Let's get it.
Let's do it.
So, fun fact, courage Courage the Cowardly Dog was actually my favorite TV show growing up. Do I think I'm courageous? Yes. Do I think maybe I got it from watching that TV show 8 hours a day when I was younger? Maybe there's a correlation.
I was actually thinking about Courage the Cowardly Dog too, because it's like, and the overarching theme is like he's deathly afraid, but then he still saves his family. And I feel like that's like
Literally the
me. Like I'm
epitome.
definitely afraid. I'm definitely
Yeah.
afraid, but like I shall overcome, You just sometimes, even though you're scared, you just got to do it.
That is bravery. That is courage. And, I just don't think personally I hear a lot about it anymore. Like, people don't put a lot of emphasis on that word courage. But for me, it's like a big part of my life. Like, sometimes, you are scared and you're just like, you have no idea how the situation's going to pan out. But, like, fuck it, we ball.
Yeah, the other person when I think about courage the character that I really relate to in pop culture is like in The Wizard of Oz, the cowardly lion, and he's like, I just wish I had the courage. And
Mm.
then at the end of that movie, spoiler alert, he finds out that he had courage all along, right? Like it's not something that's like given to you, it's something that you have. And so much of his character is like recognizing that he has the courage to do these things and that he just has to like acknowledge it within himself. And I think I sometimes don't give myself enough credit in a lot of things, and I think that includes courage, is that you can just have to recognize it within yourself because you probably do a lot of courageous acts every single day. And if you don't, you can start. You can always try.
You can start small and then, like, get bigger and bigger and bigger. You gotta be, I feel like being a Sunday queen is a little bit in the practice of gaining courage. Once you start doing small actions where you send it, then bigger actions aren't that big of a deal because, like, you already did a lot of the other things and you just built it right up. So, more yeses, less nos this year.
More yeses, less nos. And honestly, I know this is gonna sound so silly, but like I used to hate to like say something was like wrong with like if someone sent me
Mm.
a if I'm at a restaurant and they sent me the wrong thing, I swear to God, I would just eat that thing. Like if it looked decent, I'd be like, I'll just eat this. And I had such a hard time doing that. I think one time I was like at Starbucks and like I ordered RIP, don't go there anymore. But anyways, I was at a
You're
at
like
there and I got a matcha
unaffiliated.
latte. I unaffiliated, haven't gone there, you know why. Anyways, I got a matcha latte and it was with milk. And I just remember being uh, like, I don't drink milk. I literally haven't drinking milk since 2009, which is crazy. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll just like drink it. Like, how bad could it be? And I like in my mind, I'm like, girl, there's a reason why you don't drink milk. Like, you need to say something. And I was like, well, what if it was my fault? I don't think I even asked for oat milk. Like, what do I do? And then I went up and they were like, yeah, no problem. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I had to like build up the courage to ask for what I paid for? But now I do it all
Yeah.
the time because it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, asking for what you need is a renowned people pleaser. It can be tough, okay? I will say I have less of a problem when I pay for things just because, well, it depends. Like, if it's busy, if I know I messed up or something like that, like, I won't. But if I know it's their beat and they're not busy, and mostly because I've worked in a lot of like chain establishments, I know it like doesn't cost like a worker any more money to like make the thing that I ordered. And also being the worker, I know that I would be half listening half of the time. Like, you're there 8 hours a day. There's only so much mental, like attention you can put on people for 8 hours a day when you're doing the same thing. So I don't know, like I don't know, they're human beings, you know what I mean? And sometimes when it deals with other people with having courage, when you humanize people, because I don't know why it's so easy to like either place people on a pedestal or make them feel like we're different from them. Like, at the end of the day, like, we're just not that unique, like everybody's like an awkward little girl, boy, they, them in the inside. So you kind of have to figure out like how to ask for what you need and see how people react. Sometimes people don't react great, okay? But if they bark, you bark back. You bark louder.
Yeah, you have to be prepared for when things go smoothly and for things not to go so good.
Yeah, and I think also with courage comes being like an optimist. I love me a good delusional optimism a moment. I think I do that with everything. I'm like, this is just a learning lesson. I know this is gonna lead to something better. Right? So when you have that mentality, like nothing can really go wrong because even the wrongs are right.
I love that. Full
Yeah.
glass half full. And I think I don't know who said this, but it's like if you do something wrong 100 times, it's like it's not wrong. You just learned 100 ways not to do it.
Ah, that's true. I see that with like picking up any new skill. You're gonna like with the whip, I hit myself in the face so many times, but now I never do that. You know what I mean? And then I learn what I needed to do not to do that. With sewing, it is learning as you go. You know, you learn what not to do by repetition and by messing up. And that's with a lot of things in life, generally. But you have to have the courage to mess up, to be wrong, and maybe to admit that you're wrong. Because like if you do something wrong but you're too stuck in being like, no, I did it right, you're not gonna get it right as quickly as you could if you just like drop your ego and you're just like, oof, that situation didn't go as planned. How can I make that better next time so these negative things that came out of that situation don't happen again?
Baby, learn from your mistakes.
One of the big ones is like, for me, I guess, is having the courage to be truthful, to face people. I think it can be a lot easier to sometimes feel like you're sparing somebody's feelings by bending the truth or leaving out information, or maybe it can be one of your friends that it's not associated with a larger friend group and they want to hang out and they're asking you what you're doing, and you don't want to tell them that you're going out, but you're going out type of ordeal. It could be anything. It could be really small to something bigger. I think having the courage to just speak truth speaks volumes about people's characters. I really believe I love realness because it, at least for me, I think that everybody deserves the truth so they can make decisions that are best for them based on what they know, right? So when you're withholding information from people or when you're bending their sense of reality, you're taking an essence of their choice away, right? So for me, like that's why it really ticks me off when people lie to me because I'm like, I like you're taking something away from me in a way where I'm not able to make the best decision for me based on what I know. And sometimes we want to spare people's feelings. Sometimes it can be a challenging situation, but having the courage to tell the truth, even if you're going to look bad, maybe if you're going to make the other person not feel so good at the moment, it may seem like that's the easiest choice, but we can't be that selfish in life. You know what I mean? You gotta give people the tools so they can make the best choices for themselves. You don't know if what you say to them that maybe negatively affects them for 1 second is gonna like encourage them to do something else with their life. They're like, okay, maybe I don't hang out with this group of people, but maybe I'll go to a cooking class I really wanted to go to. And in the cooking class they go to, they meet their new best friend. You know what I mean? So it's like the truth can't go
I
wrong.
I agree, and also I think that sometimes there's like another quote which is like truth without tact is cruelty. So it's like you can always tell someone the honest truth in a kind, tactful way so that it isn't like purposefully to hurt them. But I feel like with telling the truth, something that you can learn is like if you don't tell people the truth, you also don't like you kind of like rob them of the opportunity of making the right choice. Like, I feel like if you're not telling someone the truth to avoid conflict, you're actually not giving that person the opportunity to, like, not have conflict, you know? Like, if you're like, oh, I don't want to tell them
Yeah.
because it's going to cause a problem, it's like you're not allowing the other person on the other side of this to, I don't know, be the most mature version of themselves and avoid conflict. You're just kind of determining what someone else's behavior is and assigning that to them without them being able to like do that themselves. And I mean, I know that like you could be like, well, I know that's how that person's going to react. You actually don't know, right? That's like an assumption you're making. And you don't like give the people opportunities to be the best version of themselves. And that this kind of happens like with building boundaries, you know, if you're like, oh, I don't want to build that boundary because they're going to react really badly. Da, 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 da. Well, you actually don't know that. That's like an assumption you're making. So telling the truth also just kind of gives you like it kind of sets you free, you know, and it can be hard to tell the truth, but at least it's out there in the open, and now you're not like holding in like a secret.
That gives me so much anxiety. Sometimes I get so anxious before I place a boundary. And then it also just comes down to like people pleasing. I'm like, why would I hold this thing that I don't really believe in for the sake of them staying in my life when I'm already going to be uncomfortable with them in my life because I couldn't like say my piece? You know what I mean? That's why, honestly, I'm a big believer on like word vomiting, and it's never for the other person, it's always for myself. You know what I mean? Like when I know I'm about to write that paragraph, I don't necessarily expect anything back, and I'm okay with that because I do it for me. I'm like, I need to have the courage to express how I feel right now, and also know that maybe at the other end, I'm nothing is validated, nothing is whatever. This is for me. I think on the other side, one thing that's pretty cowardly is ghosting, right? Mostly when somebody's like trying to tell you where they're coming from to make a situation better. Or just letting you know where they're at. Maybe you're not in the same place. Sometimes people don't have like space for other people's feelings. Like when I know I'm word vomiting on somebody and I don't expect them to reply is because I know that that could be a lot for somebody. And if you're not in the space where you want to hear me out, you won't. I think a good way to make somebody feel like you hurt them without necessarily saying anything is literally by saying heard. You know what I mean? Got it.
Yeah, or
Noted.
word.
Yeah. Period. You know what I mean? Like at least acknowledge that you saw it. I think at least for me, like I'm not looking for a response. But when somebody like doesn't respond at all and they were like, well, I just didn't know how to respond. And I'm like, you just didn't have space for my feelings, which is valid. But to say nothing is like a little bit outrageous. But do you?
Yeah, I think part of that is people not having the courage to own up to their mistakes. I think that that's like a really tough thing in relationships where it's like I feel like I was so pissed off not because it's like you did X, Y, and Z, but it's also that you couldn't own up to it. It's like,
Yeah.
dang, like you made a mistake and we honestly could have just like went on with being like, hey, we weren't compatible or like da 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 da. But now I vehemently distaste like I have a I detest you now because when I had the courage to be like, hey, this is how
Situation.
this is how you made me feel, and then them completely dismiss you and they can't even say like, because it's like, what you did was objectively wrong because that's why you were lying and hiding about it. If you thought your behavior was cool, you would have been upfront about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you knew deep down that because you're hiding it, and then when you're confronted with the truth, it's like you couldn't even have the courage to be like, you know what, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, or you know what, I understand that what I did hurt your feelings. It's like you couldn't even do that. And like that's what I'm like, that's very cowardly that you can't even own up to it now.
I've had some instances with men where they did something shitty out of it, like I got ghosted, like I was crazy. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, well, that's a pretty cowardly response to something you did. And I have told a handful of men that. I think that there's a lot of very cowardly actions that people can do. I think just having the courage to say, I see where you're coming from. It wasn't my intention, but I'm sorry I made you feel that way. Right? Like that, it will solve every issue in your life. It's not, I'm sorry you feel that way, it wasn't my intention, but I get that my actions hurt you. And believe me, like that's all people really want to hear. Like there doesn't need
Yes.
to be anything more to it. Giving somebody that, it's a gift. I will say, ghosting is okay when somebody crosses your boundaries. When you have told somebody no, or you have told somebody to fuck off, and then you're ghosting or ignoring, then I think that's a little different. Okay, you have already made yourself clear. That's just respecting your own boundaries. That's not. That's not that. I think courage ultimately is like the step up from like stopping a pussy ass bitch. Like in college we heard that a lot when you it's a lot of like peer pressuring, really. But sometimes that works. Like when I wanted to like talk to a boy I liked and I just didn't know what the vibe was. I had a lot of friends, pump me up in that way, have some courage. I think this is the spring and summertime that you just tell everybody that you're in love with them. Like inkling of a feeling, why not? Let's see what can happen.
Yeah, I also think like having the courage to go outside of your comfort zone, and it doesn't matter what that comfort zone is, but I feel like for me, like the courage to try new things, to go out to your comfort zone, to do something that like scares you, um, and being prepared for whatever the outcome is. And I think that once you kind of like desensitize yourself from like, everything needs to go perfectly for me to like go outside of my comfort zone. No, no, no. Like go outside and do something that scares you, even though the result might not be exactly what you want. Like obviously, I've gone up to guys and gotten. Actually, I haven't gotten rejected that many times, but I could feel times that I'm like, oh, he wasn't vibing. I think it's because he had a girlfriend, and so I got the soft no. I'm just joking, but like you just because it's like okay that guy it didn't fall in love with me right away doesn't mean I can't stop going out and going after things, right? You have to keep going with it even if it doesn't like result in exactly how you wanted it. Leave the assumptions of how you want something to go at the door.
It's very true. Currently, I had a situation where I like just say it, just place boundaries, just be courageous to stand up for yourself. Be courageous to stand up for yourself. And I honestly thought it would go one way, and it just went completely the other way. Actually, that happens to me a lot. And then you're kind of in a predicament because you're just like, oh, I actually did not expect that to go that way. But out of every situation, I think like in the long run, getting my word out and letting people know how I feel, it has never like saying how you feel will never ruin a real connection is so true. It is so true. And you have to believe that like the right person is going to take your maybe delulu thing that you just said and they're going to make sense of it. Like, and if it's something that maybe it's something about you that you have like a trust issue, the right person's going to want to kind of reassure you because they like you and they want to keep you. You know what I mean? And if they know where you're coming from. So, maybe just have the courage to do that because if there's a 10 no's, there's going to be one yes. And the one yes, that person that like finally gets it, you're going to be like, maybe I need to keep this person around a little longer. Maybe I need to appreciate them a little more because they seem to catch what I'm putting down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's also in like friendships and even at work, like work cultures and friendships vary from person to person. So having like the courage to go after what you want because they're knowing it's out there. I feel like I've had such different work cultures that I just know by the now that like what I want is out there, and so if something ain't it, just keep it pushing because you'll find it.
Have the courage to just say no. If you're in a situation, I guess back to the pussy ass bitch, there's a lot of situations where like I probably should have just said no.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're like a people pleaser, this one's for you. Just the maybe less yeses and more nos for you this summer. This is just individual ism. Sometimes, yeah, having the courage to say no to people in your life that you really care about, maybe their opinions or perspectives, that can be hard. But if people really care about you, they're gonna understand that maybe it's not going to be a yes all the time. Like it doesn't make you a party pooper. It doesn't make you whatever. A lot of people like project their own issues onto others and they're in different phases of their lives. Like I just know specifically like when I was going through a hard time, sometimes I wanted people to go out with me and I got a lot of no's and I respected their no's. You know what I mean? And when also like sometimes I felt like people were going through something and I said no, sometimes they didn't respect my no's. But those people like I never really ended up talking to again. You know what I mean? So it's like the real friendships persevere. It cannot hurt a real connection when you stand up for what you believe in. So just having the courage to have open conversations with people, be like, hey, I actually really don't like this. You know what I mean? Like I know that you guys want to go out all the time, but it's really not my vibe right now. And I would appreciate like thank you for inviting me, but you just don't have to. I'll let you know when I'm ready to go out. Having more open conversations with people. I would say overall just like more honesty with people. I don't know why that's so hard for people to do.
I think it's because there's like tension in saying no, and I think for some people that tension, like for me, that tension can be like really unbearable. Like as a people pleaser, to say no and like live in the tension of what are they going to do next? Or this person going to hate me? But I think something about saying no is saying no, and you don't have to have a excuse or an explanation for your no. You can just not want to. I feel like I refuse to say no to my family unless I had something like quote unquote real. Like if I felt like I couldn't say no unless I had a real excuse, you know? And so I was like, oh, well, you know, so unless I had something like a work something, I would always say yes. And thinking that I couldn't say no and feeling like I had to have an excuse for my no. So feeling like the courage to say no without feeling like you have an excuse or a good reason to say no. You can just say no because you don't want to, because you're not enthusiastic. You don't want to give an enthusiastic yes, so it's a no.
Yeah. It's not a hell yes, it's a fuck no. Okay. Um Also, you can say no, but this is a good one. For me, sometimes I don't want to go out and I have people that I want to connect with. Like when you make a new friend and they go out all the time and maybe that's not actually your vibe, but you really are vibing with this person, you can say like, "Hey, I don't want to go out, but I would really like to do dinner with you." Like, you know,
Yeah, it's like a
follow it
yes
up with something
and.
else. Yeah, yeah.
Yes
But no,
and.
but I have a yoga class next week. You want to come to that? Because you never know. Like people have different like outputs and activities, but sometimes going out is what people result to because it's fun. It's less stakes. Some people have a habit of just that's how they build connections. But you can always twist it and reverse it on them. Show them there's a new way of life.
No, but
No, but yeah.
I would say like the one that I feel like I've built is standing up for what you believe in, especially in a crowd. I think that can be really difficult when you feel like you're kind of the lone ranger in a crowd and you're like, I did not like what that person said and I'll have to say something in a tactful way. I think standing up for what you believe in is really powerful, and it might encourage, and you might be speaking for someone who doesn't have the courage to speak up for themselves. I think it can be really difficult, depending on the situation, to have the courage to be like, hey, that was fucking whack, you know? Like, that can be hard to do, especially depending on like the different power dynamics, but it's really powerful and I feel like people should do it.
Yeah. If you strongly, I think sometimes circumstances where I don't stand up for what I believe in rack my brain. I'm like, oh, I wish I would have said this. You know what I mean? In the moment where I
I
just stood
agree.
there and I froze. But I do think that when you practice other actions that are out of your comfort zone and you practice courage again and again and again, those situations come easier. So if that's something that you're working on, just like start small and you'll end up surprising yourself in other situations and with different people. But yeah,
Yeah.
being brave sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's not a safe environment. You also have to know where you're at. So that it's
Always practice
tricky.
always practice safety. I think something with courage, or I guess I've been able to have more courage because I've been able to communicate in a calmer manner. I feel like I can be like a tack dog on my morals, and now that I have a way of communicating in a calmer manner, it's a lot easier for me to like stand up with courage because I feel like like I'm emotionally regulated. So I'm like, all right, I'm emotionally regulated. So I feel good about standing up for what I believe in and having courage, because before I was like so emotionally unregulated that I was like losing control emotionally. And now that I'm like, woo, I feel a lot better about being like, that was whack as fuck. And here's all the reasons why.
Education is never bad for if you really care about something to back it up. You know what I mean? So it's not just emotion. There's like knowledge and sometimes you get into conversation with people that are like, "What are your sources?" And I'm like, "I can send you this book."
Do you read?
Do you even read though? No, for real. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me send you my bibliography. Yeah, I would say I think courage is like not a easy thing to have, but it's like something that you practice. So try a little thing. Just
And
try
be also,
sending. Yeah.
oh yeah, be courageous in your own way of thinking, okay? Stop, like, I think for me, I was thinking smaller when I was younger, but that's also because maybe I just didn't have, like, my parents didn't own a business. Like, I didn't grow up with people in certain circumstances. So, and moving to New York maybe made my world a little bigger in the things that I wanted, but having the courage to just like believe in yourself and have like bigger dreams and ambitions and say that out loud, like putting it out into the world, um, can be scary, can make you feel like you're being a little bit delulu. But I honestly think like that's the only way you start believing it, and that way you can be it. But if you don't believe it and you never actually share what you want and put that energy into the world, it's going to be really difficult for you to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think also you have to like conquer your fears, but you have to identify your fears in order to conquer them. So I think like if you're feeling like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I can't. It's like, okay, why are you saying you can't? Like, what about this are you afraid of? And then once you name it, it's like, okay, cool. Like, I'm afraid of failing. It's like, dang, okay, well then let's work on that. That's what I'm working on.
Afraid of failing?
I think a
You
little
can't
bit.
fail. How do you
I feel like it's
fail?
not honestly, I don't think I'm afraid of failing. I'm failing in the way of like just becoming unbalanced. I feel like I'm trying to like I'm afraid of like taking on too much and then just crashing out like emotionally. So I'm trying to like build up on that right now. It's like something I'm actually trying to work on. It's like how do I maintain balance like everything that has to be done.
Yeah, I think that that one is hard. I think that's a lot of just like compassion and understanding that you can't take it at everything. Trying to that's a lot for me. Like trying to simplify things that are more tangible that take a lot of energy. So when emotional things hit, because you know we're human beings, things happen in our lives are going to trigger us. They're going to build up anything. That's sometimes what like it tips the scale where you're just like, oh, now I'm not okay. Um, so allowing yourself to almost like plan ahead of if something were to happen, you know, like what's my cushion? Because if your days are packed back to back to back, if something teeter totters, then everything's out of control. Making your life scheduled around a possible mishap does, you know, foresee having that space for yourself to just not be okay for a little bit. Then accept it, you know, but with a lot of love and compassion for yourself. Like, we're human beings, like, things just happen, you know? We're gonna have to take it day by day. It's gonna be okay. Like, the sun's gonna come out again. People are gonna piss us off again. People are gonna make us laugh again. We're gonna love again. But yeah, accepting that you're going through a rough time, a tough moment, and that maybe you need to advocate. Courage to ask for help is a big one for me that I'm still learning. You know, like I'm still trying to practice that one. I was very bad at that one. I'm like a I'll drown alone type of in my sorrows and then get out of it in the other side and be like, oh yeah, I'm fine. But like I was literally like everything was on fire. Yeah, that's if you most of the time, if you have people that care about you in your life, you can pass things off to people if they, you know, sometimes they offer. They're like, "Hey, how can I support you?" You're just like, "I'm having a really hard time with this." You never know what they may be able to help you with, to support you with. So, you know, it's okay to ask for help. If they don't come through, ask somebody else. You know, just keep asking.
I love that. Keep asking. Don't take a no as a road stop forever. Just go to the next light.
Yeah. I think I had a
Okay.
hard time with that because yeah, no, it makes sense because sometimes like
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, I need to ask for help, and then I'd ask for help and then people wouldn't follow through and that would discourage me. But then it turns out like just some people have their plates already full, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, you do have encountered that people are people pleasers. So some people will say yes when it's a no. And you know, you just have to learn who's actually reliable. But it comes with asking several people and seeing who comes through.
I love that.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, that's the episode for today. I hope you'll have the courage to go do something, maybe a little different tomorrow and have an amazing rest of your week. As always, please subscribe and please go follow us at things number 4 at your concern. I'm at Bernice DSM.
And I'm at Ella L. Tudor. See
All right.
ya. Bye.
Bye.